These have been different kinds of sermons, especially, for me, because sometimes we'll just go all the way through a book. Sometimes we'll take a character and walk through their life. And this one is really about just taking these high-level proverbs that Solomon talks about and breaking them down for us because they're so important. When you think about being able to sit at the feet of the wisest man to ever live and just hear him speak, that's what Proverbs really is. And it gives us wisdom in how to engage and deal with other people. And I can't think of a better time to do this and go through these different proverbs than right now. With just the chaos that's going on, the news and everything, it's just nuts every time you turn it on. And tonight we're going to talk about something that's something I don't get to talk about much, and I love talking about it. But there's two main moments for me when I think of being really, there's times when your heart is like tugged on to do something and to respond when there's a need. And I can think of two specific situations that really stand out to me. One is I was pulling into a Jack in the Box, and I was in college because I think it was my meal plan was Jack in the Box and Taco Bell. And I remember pulling into the Jack in the Box because at that time, breakfast all day, all night. Are you kidding? Yeah. So I pull into the Jack in the Box, and I remember there was this guy, and I was out in El Cajon, and I'm out there, and there was this guy, and I could just tell that life was rough. And he didn't have a sign or anything. It was just one of those moments where God was like, buy him something. And I was like, God, I'm a college student. I have gift cards. And it was very clear, buy him something. And so, and at that point in time, I wasn't walking with Jesus, but it was just very clear you need to do something for him. And so I pulled up my car to him and just said, hey, what would you like to eat from Jack in the Box? I'm a college student, so this is all you're going to get is Jack in the Box. But what would you like? And I remember, and he asked, and I came around, and he met me around the other side, and he was just so thankful. And it was just a cool moment, I remember. But I remember that wasn't like, oh, I should give or help. It was God directly saying, Steve, do this. There was another moment where in college, once again, one of my friends brought me to church, and it was a really big church, and I remember going, and they had a guest speaker who was famous. This famous speaker, he's an author, he comes in, and he's speaking, and he's talking about this incredible vision and this plan in Africa, and what he's going to do. And this whole message is just building up. Like we're going to take all these people, we're going to fill up airplanes, and we're going to go, and we're going to do this, and it's going to change this whole country in Africa, and da-da-da-da-da. Everything was going right. He had his talk down, they put the music in it, right the perfect moments, and all of a sudden, I'm getting swept up in this moment. And I'm hearing about Africa, they're showing pictures, all this stuff, they got this plan, and then at the very end, they must have brought in this piano player, just from, I don't even know where, amazing, like everything was just like perfectly aligned, and he said, if you're gonna go on this trip right now, stand up. And I stood, I literally went, and my buddy stood up, and I'm standing there, and then, oh man, this was horrible. And then he says, everyone that's standing, you all come up to the center, we're going to put you on stage. And I'm looking at my buddy, and he's standing, and he's going, so I'm like, all right, here we go. I'm going to go on stage at this church. And there was a big, huge lineup of us on this stage committing to go to Africa. And I remember as he's talking and he's saying what we're agreeing to do as we're on stage. And he's like, these people here are agreeing to go for a month and a half to Africa. And I'm sitting there going, and so I'm inspired. I'm up there. But as he's talking, now this has happened multiple times in my life. Some of you that know me really well, you just know that sometimes I am passionate about something and then I eat it later. Like the first marathon I ever ran, horrible decision, just things like that. Well, so I'm on stage, and as he's talking about what we're doing, I'm going, I am insane. I'm going to go to Africa for over a month. I don't even like, and then he's like, and they're going to raise this much money. And I'm like, and I remember, but I was caught up in this moment. I was excited. Now, this is horrible, but we're a transparent, authentic church. I didn't go. And I mean, I'm sure it was frowned upon. I got hate emails. I mean, I was on this mailing list. It was horrible. And my buddy went. And he had a great life-changing experience. But I didn't go. Totally backed out because it was like too much at that point in time. And I was like, But I remember when he was talking about the vision and the plan and the needs that were in that country, I was so worked up. And like I said, and at that point, I wasn't like, yes, Jesus, I'm all in with you. As you could tell, I backed out. But I was caught up in there is a need and I want to do something. And there's something that is critical about that, and it's not just a part of us, but it's a part of a relationship with Jesus. And sometimes we can get so caught up and stuck in being with Jesus is really just being with Jesus, and that's what it is, versus actually there's outward responses that happen as a result of a relationship with Jesus. And so one of the things that I know that I've always been passionate about is helping to go after and help with causes that are defending and helping people that really can't stick up for themselves. And in a lot of contexts, that means people that are in either poverty, they're struggling to make it or to get through. And as we talk about this, because Solomon's going to talk about this, and it's incredibly powerful what he shares about when it comes to blessing and helping those in need, those who are considered poor. And it's just been something that's been something that's always kind of been on my heart. And even to the point when Lindsay and I, when we used to do vacations a lot more than we do, now with 2 kids. But I remember we used to pick places where it meant a lot when we could tip them. Because have you ever tipped someone and you're like, go waste this, But there's certain countries you go, and if you vacation there, it is so fun to tip them because they're in need. And I remember that's always been something that we've done. And one of the things that I always try to remind myself is like, I didn't pick the country that I would be born in. I didn't pick the parents that I would have. And I think of the blessings, like I have water, I have clean water, I have food, I'm going to go home and there's going to be food there. My kids have their own rooms. Like, we have 2 cars and one's a Pontiac G6. Okay? I mean, we're rolling. And I look at that and I think, man, I'm able to start this. I was able to start this church. And when I started the church, there were maybe fears, but they weren't like, oh my goodness, like my family's going to disown me. People are going to go after us and attack us and all this. And like I had no fears of that. And a lot of people do. And so Solomon, the richest man to ever live and the wisest man, he talks about responding to the needs and the poor in our lives that are around us. And let's just be honest, okay, for a moment. There's around roughly 322 million people in the United States. Okay? So there's like 322 million people. The poverty line across the board right now, I believe it's at $1.90. I think it's right on that. It used to be $1.25 for a long time. I believe they moved it up in 2015 to like $1.90. So if you make above $1.90 a day, you're not considered poor across the globe. And here's the thing that just wrecks me. So there's 322 million people in our country. There's over 700 million people living below $1.90 a day. 700 million people. That are not just like poverty, like we think poverty or poor. But I mean, there's double the number of the whole country that are living below $1.90 a day. And it's crazy. And I don't want this to be a full thing on, hey, we're not going to do, stand up if you want to go to Africa. We're not going to do all those things. But because I want you to be more aware than just it's out there, but you need to know that when he's talking about this, there's context, right? So that's across the globe, but there's many people in need that are having a hard time getting by, and they may be making a lot more than that, but it doesn't matter. And they may be in need, they may need help. They may be considered poor. We live in San Diego. Poor here is different than other places I've lived, but it still is poor. And so he talks about this and responding to this, because one of the things that Jesus said as he launched out the church and the disciples in that moment, before he goes up, he says, listen, go into where? He says, go here, and go into Judea, Samaria, and then go to the ends of the world. So in other words, he's saying, have a local context of this, but you also need to have a global aspect of this. And so it's huge. It's critical to us. It's important. And so in Proverbs 22:2, and these will be on the screen, and like I said, this is different, less verses, but the verses you can just sit and think about. But Proverbs 22:2, and then I'm going to read 29:13, because you just need to see that this isn't something that Solomon just flippantly talks about. This is important. He says in 22:2, the rich and poor have this in common. The Lord made them both. And then in 29:13, he continues with that thought in this other proverb and says, the poor and the oppressor have this in common. The Lord gives sight to the eyes of both. I had a conversation probably like 6 years ago, and at that time, my role as a pastor, I was in a lot of different places where there was a lot of needs, and I would go in either speak or I'd be a part of relief efforts and stuff like that. And I was at, I forget where I was at, but I'm having a conversation with this individual, and typically it goes to, hey, what do you do, and this and that. So I started telling him what I was currently doing, and as I was talking about, and in this case, it was I was talking about something with homelessness, and I remember his response. And have you ever had a conversation where someone's talking to you and you're so in shock by what they say, you just don't even know how to respond? Like you're just so taken back that everything that's logical to you can't even process responding because you're so taken back. And I remember, because it just stuck out to me. And I always, when I refer to it, I just call it a disgusting conversation, because there's certain conversations that I just say they're disgusting, like I want to wash them out. And he said, well, and he just kind of responded very cold and just said, all those people, they deserve what they got. They made choices, and that's what happens. And I'm sitting there like I didn't know what to say. Like I didn't know, do I hit you? Like what? Like I didn't know what to do. Because it was just it just took me back that someone could be so cold, and also like knowing that there's incredible stories and stories of heartbreak with these individuals that I was having the opportunity to connect with, and that someone could be that cold to that. And this individual was wealthy. It's just, not that everyone wealthy is like this, but I remember that conversation, and I remember thinking, walking away going, they are human beings. And somewhere along the line, we have started to dehumanize people. And it's crazy. I mean, literally, it happens so quickly to where, to where we become to the point where we hear negative stuff and we go, well, I just don't even want to know. So we pretend it's not there. Like there's needs, there's needy people. If you live around here in San Diego, you see it all the time. You know people. You see it. If you just take a second and notice other individuals, you'll notice that other people aren't having it as good as you. And you can very easily choose to just act like it's not there. Sometimes we just ignore it to the point where it's normal. Have you ever gotten to the point where and maybe you're there right now, where that need is just something normal and you don't even acknowledge that they're human? It happens when maybe we've interacted with one person and then we characterize everyone as being like that. Just think if that was your philosophy on life. I would never be a pastor, because I've met some pastors and I'm like, you're a pastor? oh, those poor people. You think of your career, like whatever you do, you've met people that do what you do and you go, oh. But you didn't quit doing what you did because you met someone like that. I mean, they're all over the place. Like, I would have never gotten married if I met some people and their marriage. I'd have been like, nope, don't want that. You know, if you've hung out with some people with kids, you walk away. That was us. We were at a party last night. My kids started having a meltdown. Great birth control for everyone there. But sometimes if you base, should I have kids, on one interaction, you will never have kids, right? It's crazy. I mean, and when we think, man, we had Lindsay and I, and Kingston was in the car before we had Bronx. We're driving in downtown San Diego, and we literally had a homeless individual come out and attack my car. Like, we had to put punching and coming after. It was crazy. I don't now see homeless people and go, oh. Like, it was one situation that's happened, and I probably worked with, I don't even know how many. But you don't base a perception and make it a reality off of an interaction with one person. And many times we have done that. And I just think we need to get back to the place where we're not judging because of what we think we know. We're not condemning because of what we think we know or assume about them. We're not mocking them. And just get back to the point where that's a child of God. Jesus died on the cross for that person. And it's the weirdest thing, and that's why I love how Solomon goes, you know what, the similar thing between them both? Like, God made them both. And it's so deep. It's like he didn't go, hey, you know what, Steve, here you go, bud. You're just so awesome. And when I was on the cross, I was really just thinking about you. No, that is so insane to think. He loves that person so much. He took time and was intentional and formed that person just as he formed you. And I think about this, and it's so hard because I see just the news, and you see refugees fleeing with nothing but their families, just trying to make it. You see these documentaries, and sometimes we just get so cold to the reality that these are real people like you and me, and sometimes I just need to think about that. And I need to start looking at other people like they actually are human beings. Because I think very easily I become cold, I judge, or I make assumptions about others that I have no business doing that. And I love how Solomon just says, listen, at the core, they're a human just like you. And then he keeps going in Proverbs 21 with this thought. In Proverbs 21:13, it says this: those who shut their ears to the cries of the poor will be ignored in their own time of need. Ooh. That's not like, yay, can I hear that again? You want to hear it again. Those who shut their ears to the cries of the poor will be ignored in their own time of need. And I want to jump really quick to 1 John 3:17 because it continues that thought. In 1 John 3:17, and it'll be on the screen. I'll just read it from up there. It says, if someone has enough money to live well and sees a brother or sister in need but shows no compassion, how can God's love be in that person? Just read that slowly. If you have enough, how in the world can God's love be in you if you can just respond cold and not care or demonstrate compassion? And that first verse, man, like if you choose to ignore it, you're going to be ignored. When you start treating other people like they deserve this because of this or that, when you start saying they deserve this, that's a very slippery road to start going down. Because when you think about what do we all deserve, none of us have gotten really what we deserve because of what Jesus did for all of us. That's available to all of us. But when you start saying, well, they deserve that and this, then for whatever reason, you're saying that because of who you are, what you've done, you've deserved something else. And it's really, really dangerous. And then you criticize and you judge them. Maybe life's just been good to you. And we go through seasons where life is great. And we all go through seasons where it's like, I can't stand it. I can't live here. I can't do this. And the thing is, when in the season where in your life, when things are going good and you start judging, you're going to go through your season where it's going to be difficult. And you need to know that if you're going to be cold-hearted to there, God's going to be like, oh, now you care. Now you need me? It would honestly be like Kingston throwing a fit all day, everywhere we go. And he's 2, so he's like tasting rebellion and what it feels like. And it would be like him just melt down everywhere all day, doing everything against what we're saying. And then we walk into Target, and he goes, oh, will you buy that for me, Daddy? You know what I'm going to do? Get out. I'm not buying you that. You have ruined my day. And you think you deserve a toy? Right? We are the same way. When we treat and we act like that, and then all of a sudden something appeals to us, or now I'm in a struggle. Oh no, God. And then we now go, I need help. He says, listen, if you want to choose to ignore others when they're in need, good luck. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen is him to give us what we want. And I love, what it said there in 1 John 3 of how can we say God's love is in us? Like, how in the world? It is crazy, the contradiction sometimes between how we act and what this tells and what this says to do. It's crazy. And so many times I find I'll have thoughts or things, and it's so contradictory to this. And one of the things that I just have to remind myself is not so much tonight have I received God's love for me, but is God's love active in me right now? Because I think we have heard the message many times to receive God's love. But guess what? You can receive all kinds of things, but if it's not active in your life, you've just held on to it for you. And it's for others. And then he keeps going once again in this whole theme of helping those in need. In Proverbs 14:31, he says, those who oppress the poor insult their maker, but helping the poor honors him. And then in 17:5, he says the same things. Those who mock the poor insult their maker. Those who rejoice at the misfortune of others will be punished. Okay, it's almost like when we are mocking or looking down on people that are in need, are struggling to get by, are poor, we are actually not mocking them, we're mocking their maker. We're mocking God. We're actually criticizing God. Like, think how crazy that is. That it's almost like we look at people and we'll go, God, you didn't do a good job there. Like, think about that. Like, how crazy is that? That we can be so warped in our culture to go, man, God, you screwed up there, but you hit a home run right here. Wow. You must be up there doing victory laps with what you did with me. But man, you must have been off on that day. Crazy. You're not mocking them, you're mocking their maker, who is our maker. Man. And I love how it says you honor God when you honor those people. You honor God when you honor those people. We've had, we've had times in our lives that have been great, and we've had times that have been a struggle. And there is just, I can think on a personal level, Lindsay and I, times when people have just kept us going, have stepped in for us in our moments of need. And it's been amazing. And they just responded to that. And it was the coolest thing, and it blessed us big time. We've been in a position where, we've been able to help other people, where we've been the ones that had the opportunity. And it really is an opportunity when you get to help someone else in their time of need. And I think of the things that we've gotten to be a part of. I know, man, I was just thinking of just the needs that we've gotten to see. I mean, the most extreme. I mean, I've been on trips to Conakry, Guinea in Africa, and just seeing the poor of the poor. I've gotten to lead and be on teams that went to Haiti and then Managua, Nicaragua, and see the tent city there, and just stuff that's just like a level of poverty that you can't even comprehend. It's real, and even as you see it, you just can't even comprehend that that's normal for them. And it's out there, but I think of the opportunities that I've had to be able to go and to love on those people and bless those people. And here's the thing. I think it sometimes becomes easy to look at that as something to go do, but in reality, God's calling us to look at our neighbors. He's calling us to look at each other, to look at the people we work with, to not only think of the world, but also people around us that are in need, that are having moments of crisis, and just going, can you do something? Can you do something? Because in those moments, when you're thinking that way, you're honoring God. It's not about you. It's not about your comfort. It's about, man, there's something going on there. There's something not right. I need help. And it may be a trip. It may be this, or it just whatever that is. It's just having my eyes turned around sometimes to going, am I looking at this as a way that makes Steve comfortable, and all this? Or am I looking at it as a way where I can just honor God by loving someone else in their time of need? And here's the thing. It's so easy to do this. I mean, I've seen it so many times, and it's just by noticing. It really is. I mean, I watched a guy the other day. I'm at an intersection, and I see him driving, and he just takes a bottle of water that he already had in his car, and on his turn, it was very dangerous, but it was very loving. He just handed it to this homeless guy and just kept driving. It was amazing how he did it all in one motion. But it was just an act of love. It was an act acknowledging humanity, and he noticed that person. And I think there's so many times in our lives that we get so caught up in going, that we don't sit there and go, man, God, who have you placed around me that I can just help, that I can encourage in some capacity? I think a lot of times, sometimes writing a check is the easiest thing and the least hassle, and that's not at all maybe what God's asking you to do. Sometimes that's just easy. Oh, I'll just write a check. Oh, you're good. I feel good. Life's good. No. He may be asking for something different. He may be saying, I just want you to engage in conversation with them. I just want you to knock on their door and ask them, how is it going? Is there anything I can do for you? Just those little acts where it's taking us outside of us. And the thing is, I think one of the dangers in our culture, and I see it kind of in church culture, is we'll do these trips, or, we're doing this Mexico thing, which is going to be awesome, but we'll do trips, or we'll go serve at this location or this and that. And it's almost like this one-hit wonder, this like medication for us, to where I leave after serving and I go, I feel so good, and da-da-da-da-da. Or I took this trip to Africa. Oh my goodness, I feel so good about myself. And, and people ask, hey, where were you? I was in Africa. They don't have water, and I helped build a well. Just serving God, loving other people. Or where were you? I was at the soup kitchen. They needed help, and I was available. And sometimes God, we get so like event, and many times there's nothing lasting. And sometimes God's saying, like, open your eyes. Because I don't want this to be a event-based relationship. And I want you to experience all that I have for you and what I want to do through you in other people's lives on a daily basis. And sometimes I need to quit programming when I'm going to be a Christian and when I'm going to do this, and just say, God, what is it right now? Where is that right now? I would encourage you, because that's what this is about. This is about a relationship with Jesus, and this is the wisdom that comes out of it. It's not about, hey, can we schedule this and schedule that, and in those moments I'll think this way. No. It's bringing it home. It's bringing it into my lifestyle. And then I'll finish with this verse. In Proverbs 19:17, he says, if you help the poor, you are lending to the Lord, and he will repay you. And yet we're still like if you're lending to the Lord and he will repay you. I want to just say this. It's not even about the person or the group that you're giving it to. It's about God. It's not about whether they deserve your gift. It's not about if they've earned your gift. It's about doing it as unto God and knowing that when I lend to you, because I know people that have lent and then they'll come and be like, man, I gave them something, they never returned it. Or I was going to do this for them and they couldn't help me. And it's like, well, you never really gave, you actually loaned. Like, and because you're expecting something in return, but we need to give and to look at people and how we give and can impact their lives. And it's not because of what they can do for us. It's just simply because I get to serve and love and lend to God when I lend and love to them. And like I said, it doesn't mean they deserve it. You hear us talk about like obedience, like with tithing, like I remember when I first started tithing and learning to tithe and that it was an act of obedience. I wasn't like, oh yay, I get to give to the church. Woo hoo hoo. Like, no, it was an act of obedience. And then I learned to love it and I learned to just go, this is about God. This isn't about me. It's not about this church or that church. It's about God and me. And you hear us talk about that. Well, guess what? I remember sitting down. I remember the first time this happened where I'm meeting with someone and I know that if I give them money, they are not going to do what they're saying they're going to do. And I remember, and it was at a point in time, I was single, so I had money, my own money. And anyway, you'll get that later if you're not married. But I remember I go and God is like, write that dude a check. No, I know him. Shut up, Steve. Write him a check. How much, God? Like $10? No, write him a check, a legit check. Write him a check. And I remember he's sitting in my office and he's sharing his heart and he shared his heart with other people and in that moment, I thought, just as it says here, you're earning and deserving what you've done. You're reaping what you've sown. So you deserve this. You deserve to be where you're at. I started that. And in that moment, God said, stop it. It has nothing to do with him earning, deserving. I don't care what he does with it. Trust me and just write him a check. And it had nothing to do with that person because I didn't even like that person. It had everything to do with God. Everything to do with God. Nothing to do with him. It was between me and God and me just holding to these words where he says, do this and listen, Steve, I'll repay you and I'm the only one that matters. And so it's like, okay. I remember I wrote him a check and he said, thank you. I didn't even feel good about it. I wasn't like, I didn't get in my car and go, yay, I just gave money to someone in need. Like, I didn't think about that at all. It was 100% just God saying, be obedient to me. And when you're obedient to God in those moments where you reach out, and it's not because they deserve it or earn your love or earn your respect, which you need to continually give anyway, but you start looking at people as interactions and encounters with God, and that changes everything. It takes everything off of them. If you're married, you got to love your spouse because of God. You don't love them because, oh, they're so awesome and you wake up and everything's just roses. You love them because of God. You have relationships and friendships that you love because of God. There's people that you treat differently because of God. And when we look and have interactions and when people are in need, you don't sit there and go, man, that's the result of all your decisions and everything else. You can, because where does it end? But you got to respond to what God tells you to do. And in that moment, you remember, as you do it to them, you do it to me. As Jesus said in Matthew 25, he said, what you did to the least of these, you did unto me. Because he said, you visited me, or you didn't do this, you didn't go to the prison, all these things. And they were saying, what are you talking about, God? We didn't see you there. And he's like, no. What you did to those people in struggle, what you did to the least of these, you were actually doing to me. And I think about that. It has nothing to do with deserving. And it really comes back to me to that thought from 1 John 3:17. How can I have his love but not extend his love? How can I be so blown away by the gifts and the giver and the opportunity that I have to have eternity in perfection at a level that I can't even comprehend. And I can sit here and hug myself and think all these good thoughts about me and miss the whole point. It's literally like, I remember when the iPhone 6s came out and everyone was like, oh my goodness, I've got to have that. And it was insane. It would be like you going and getting the iPhone 6 and coming home and going, I got the iPhone 6. And you take it with you. You don't get the case because you want everyone to know that it's an iPhone 6. You sit down for meals and you put it on the table. You pretend phone call so people will look. But it would be like getting that and then never activating it. It would be the most bizarre thing, wouldn't it? Oh, I got the iPhone 6. Okay, well, can I use it to call someone? Well, no, because I haven't activated it. So why do you have it? Oh, because it's awesome, and you want it, but I have it. Yeah, but you don't really have it, because you can't even make a phone call. You can't do anything with that. You haven't activated it. There's so many times in our lives where I am that person with God. I've experienced, I've embraced, and I've received this love. And maybe I've come forward at churches. Maybe I've come forward multiple times. I remember I kept track at one point as a kid how many times I said the salvation prayer. I remember at one point in my life, I said, if I say it 25 times every night, I should be good. And I would do that. That would be part of my evening by myself in my bed as I look at my sports posters and then I go, Jesus, please come into my heart. I'm sorry for what I've done. Thank you. I love you. Jesus, please come into my heart. Take away my sins. Thank you. Jesus, please. And I would say it and say it and say it and say it and say it. And you can receive his love, but if you haven't activated his love in your life, you're missing it. You're missing the point. And I'm telling you, this culture, this craziness that we're in, they don't need to just hear about what happens when you receive it. They need to experience it from you, from your life. Because the greatest expression of who Jesus is you. And you want people to read this and open this. Well, why should they? If everything that you say this is about is in you and I see you, why in the world would I open this? Why would I go to a church that talks about what you are? Why? You are the best example of Jesus and the wisest man to ever live, a guy whose worth is estimated, if in today's world, at over $100 billion. If he's saying in the inspiration of God to do these things and not do these as a, yay, I served there, I did this, but as a part of my life, then this needs to be more than, once again, the words on pages of God's word and into my heart, and I have to activate this love. And tonight, I just want to ask you, have you activated it? Not have you received it, embraced him, but are you activated? Are people not just seeing you have this cool thing, but are they experiencing it because of you and through you? Think about it. Let's pray. God, thank you so much. As I was thinking about this message over and over and over again, I just stopped and just started thanking you. Because I'm overwhelmed with this life that I've been allowed to live, by the incredible gifts that you've given me, by the opportunities that you've just thrown at me, not because I'm all of this or all that, but just because of you. God, I pray that you would help me to look at others as you do. I pray that you would remind me in moments of judging, of condemning, of self-righteousness, that you went to the cross for that other person. That you were intentional in shaping and forming and creating them just as you were with me. God, I pray that once again, the love that I've freely received, I would now freely give. And that I would remember that I'm not called to do this because someone has deserved my love or earned my love. I'm called to do this because of you. And I didn't do anything special to earn what you've freely given to me. And so, Lord, give me your eyes again. Give me your heart again. reactivate me, get my battery plugged into you as the source again, and just renew my mind and my heart. Forgive me for being so swept up and caught up in culture and how I'm trained to think, and just bring me back to the core of what your word says to do and how to respond to others. Thank you, God. In Jesus' name, amen.